And what's up, Los Angeles UCLA Bruins fans? It's Monday Night Live, LAFB style. Excited to talk with you all about your UCLA Bruins. Joined as always by Jamal Madney. I am Ryan Dyrud. Coming at you on a Monday. What's up, brother? How we doing? Happy Monday. Excited to talk about your Bruins.
Happy Monday, brother. Always excited to be talking about the men in powder blue and gold and excited to get into it on our new Monday Night Live tradition.
Yes, excited. Every Monday, 7:30 to 8, we are here to talk Bruins. Show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Free money to bet on the NBA or NHL playoffs, baseball. You got the NFL draft. It's all on BetOnline, and use that promo code BELIEVE. Tell them the guys at the LA Football Network sent you. So, for the next 30 minutes or so, we're talking UCLA Spring Practice. Jamal was with our guy Will Decker on Saturday at the Wasserman Center hanging out. And then Jamal had the pleasure of attending a very fun UCLA event with the past 20 quarterbacks. And I'm sure Jamal has some great stories and some meet and greets there that we'd love to hear about. So, but Jamal, we'll just jump into it. Spring practice. How was it being out there live? I don't know if it was your first time, but we'll just call it that. How was it being out there on Saturday?
That was great to be out there on Saturday, Ryan, and go and check out the team, obviously, and just it was a real joy to be there with Will and just get an opportunity to kind of observe the team, but also immerse with the fans. And so much of LAFB is about community and the opportunity to kind of share this with the Bruin fans. A number of fans came up to us and recognized us for our work at the LA Football Network. And so it was just a wonderful interaction and just a great day overall on Saturday. All things UCLA football, practice by day, the QB club event by night, and excited to get into it with you.
Yeah, totally. So I think the way we'll kind of do this is, as people trickle in here, obviously drop those questions in that we can answer and talk about any specific player question, coaching question, whatever it may be. But it'll probably be more of, since you were there, I'll just run off of you and kind of your observations. But, being there in person in the stands, just, talk me through the quarterbacks. We've talked about all spring practice. We've talked about him a bunch, so I don't want to regurgitate, but seeing it live and whatnot, just what were the likes of Dante Moore and Chase Garbers and these guys looking like out there?
Yeah, Ryan, I think if I were to sort of break it down in terms of the QB room at this particular stage, I think there's really three tiers of UCLA quarterbacks. I think the first tier are the guys that are genuinely competing for the starting spot, who are able to put play over play together, be really consistent, make the right reads, make really good throws, and really move the ball in a fluid fashion. I think the second tier of quarterback are those that on any one given play, they can do something dynamite. They can do something elite. They can really do something special. But the challenge is play over play, down over down, snap over snap. Can they put those together? Sometimes it's a good play, then it's a bad play. Sometimes it's two good plays, two bad plays. And then I think the third tier of quarterback are the quarterbacks that are just there enjoying the college experience, enjoying what it means to be a UCLA Bruin, but are not realistically vying for that starting spot. And so when I break it up into those three tiers, I think tier one right now is Ian Garbers and Dante Moore. Tier two right now is Collin, Schlee, and Justin Martin. And tier three right now is Chase Griffin. And so when you look at tier one, obviously folks are really impressed with Garbers. I was too. Garbers was a little flat though in this practice. He had a bit of a dip from his first 5 practices. Some balls were batted down, a couple of incompletes. He had an interception, but you can see the command of the offense. He's very confident in his reads. He's very confident in where he's going with the ball. And sometimes balls get batted down. Sometimes they get intercepted, not because he's made a bad throw, but because a receiver has slipped or a receiver got beaten to his spot with really good defense. And that happened a little bit with Garbers because of the likes of a Devin Kirkwood really balled out. Devin Kirkwood had 3 interceptions in practice on Saturday. And so I love the command that Garbers has. Dante is special. And, when you look at those throws from right hash to left, going across the field. There's just an incredible poise for a young man who is still only 17 years old. He has such quiet feet and such a quiet posture about him in the pocket. His pocket presence reminds me so much of Bryce Young. Though they're different styles of player, but just in terms of pocket presence, it's sort of the anti-Peyton Manning in a lot of ways. Remember, and you know this well, Ryan, being a Broncos fan, Manning would go back, his legs constantly turning. He's doing things with his wrist. There's all of this sort of nervous movement going on with Peyton Manning. Totally the opposite with Dante Moore. He's just so calm. Even when he throws the ball away, it's the right decision. Even when he has a check down, it's after he's sort of surveyed the field. And I think the one element with Dante is I think he still needs to grow into his body a little bit. I think you're going to see his arm strength be even greater over time. I think, the velocity, I think, can even increase a little bit. And I think him just following through on certain throws can also improve. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this Garbers Moore battle takes place. I think Garbers is still in the lead. And as you and I talked about, if we think about it with the Masters, it was sort of a 4 or 5 shot lead. I think that's becoming kind of a 3-shot lead, almost a 2-shot lead at this point. And I think Moore is going to be closing the gap as we proceed out of spring and into summer and the fall. In terms of Schlee and Martin, Ryan, Schlee has the strongest arm of anyone in the QB room. I mean, the guy, when he just lets it go, it's a snap of the wrist and the ball just flies off of his hand and arm. He's definitely got the strongest arm, but he's also the most erratic of all the quarterbacks, not just in terms of accuracy, but also in terms of decision-making. There were an inordinate number of false starts with Schlee, of broken plays with Schlee. So Schlee really needs to play a little bit of catch-up on the consistency piece, on understanding this playbook, on getting used to Power 5 football. But in terms of just raw arm strength, Schlee actually is the highest in terms of the QB room. And then that brings us to Justin Martin, who actually has the best NFL body of anyone in the QB room. I mean, he's the biggest guy. He's the strongest guy. He sort of reminds me of like a Josh Dobbs, from, back in Tennessee. And then obviously Dobbs was with the Titans. Just a big kid. I mean, you could just, his size just jumped out on the field. And again, a kid who can sort of make all of the throws. But again, I think it's that sort of consistency. A lot of the challenges that I think Malachi Nelson has are similar challenges that Justin Martin has. And then, of course, Chase Griffin, the ambassador of the team, he's sort of along for the ride. But that's how I kind of see this QB competition play out, Ryan. And I think as we progress, I think it's going to start getting to more of a 2-horse race with Garbers and Moore. And I predict that after spring ball, either Martin or Schlee are going to transfer.
Yeah, I can't see any circumstance where all 4 of these quarterbacks are on the roster, just because of how talented they are. And
I love that. It even be Logan, Collin, Schlee, Jay Schrader. I think that's a fair one there. I mean, Schlee is just, it's dynamite in terms of his arm. He's got the best arm of the 4 by a significant amount. It's just a matter of, the ball just kind of flies all over the place. When he's on target with it, it's so beautiful. It's salivating, but those are few and far between.
Is there a scenario where you could see, because I agree with you, there's no way all 4 of these, man, there's this like fly that every time we do these lives, there's a little fly every time. I don't know if you guys notice, I'm like always whacking at something. I don't know why they come out when I'm recording.
Yeah, it's Ryan Dyrud. Yes.
Yeah, I guess. But so there's no way all 4 of them will be on the roster. And you mentioned Schlee and Martin transfer. Is there a scenario though where, Ethan Garbers is right now the leader for starting, but we both think that Dante Moore will end up beating him out. It will be Moore. And now Garbers being that good, being that close, could probably start for even a potential contender and take, whether it's in the Pac-12 or elsewhere. Is there a scenario where you see Garbers leaving and going to because he wouldn't have to go to like a small school and prove himself. Like he could probably go into a decent program that's just like a QB away and take the reins and really probably be dynamic and show stuff? Or do you think he's done enough in this program, he believes enough where he's okay being the backup for his final year?
Ryan, it's such a great question. And I think it actually comes down to how quickly the Dante Moore growth curve goes. And not just physical growth, but mental growth and just an understanding of the playbook growth. Because if you see Dante in the next 4 to 6 weeks make some big jumps and you sort of see him kind of take over QB1, then I think Garbers will be the one to transfer. To your point, because he's been in the program so long, you got to understand the difference between Garbers and Moore right now. There's a 5-year age difference, 5.5-year age difference. So Garbers is probably saying, look, I've got 2 years here to make it happen. It's now or never for me. And so if I can't start here, I got to find a place where I can start if I want any sort of NFL aspirations. But I think he stays with the program as long as he believes that he can start. And so if the more progression kind of stays in a box and stays more linear, I think Garber stays. But if Moore starts making these huge jumps, every couple of weeks, every 4 weeks, then I could see Garbers really reevaluate. Do I think those massive jumps are going to take place? Probably not, because at the end of the day, Dante's still only 17, and we have to sort of temper the expectations. So I do think Garbers and Moore are going to kind of fight it out to the end in terms of into fall ball.
Yeah, because, could you imagine Garbers going to like Oregon State that is going to be a good team, and he just makes that much better? Going to, one of the Big Ten schools that UCLA will face in a year. And it's the transfer portal makes things so interesting because
the Pac-12 is so deep. Like even Oregon State, like is Garbers going to beat out Uliungalele? Like probably not. And so it's one of those things where his best shot to contend and start is probably UCLA. Because he's not going to start at SC. He's not going to start at Oregon. He's not going to start at Washington. He's not going to start at Oregon State. He probably doesn't start at Arizona. Maybe him and Cam Ward battle it out at Washington State. Like there aren't a lot of options in the Pac-12. Now, maybe he wants to go to the Big Ten, but Ohio State's got a couple 5-stars. Michigan's got a 5-star. So are you going to go into a situation now where you're going to be in a more run-heavy offense and you can't sort of showcase what you do? So in theory, you're absolutely right. But when you zoom out and you sort of survey the situation, how many options does he have? The other alternative is to go to the Big 12 potentially in a pass-happy offense. I could see that. If you look at Pac-12, Big Ten, the options are a little bit limited.
Well, thanks for jumping in because I blacked out and forgot Uliungalele was at Oregon State. So I was just thinking about their roster last year and moving on from quarterback, and I was like, oh, that's a good. They need one, and I forgot that DJ was there, even though we talked about him last segment. So yes, it would not be Oregon State, and yeah, it'd have to be a program that is really needing a quarterback or that's a pass heavy system that could utilize him, but. Obviously we'd love him to stay, but at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do to better your NFL career. So, all right, well, let me just put this to you. What's a position group that stood out to you that you want to talk about?
Yeah, no, there's a couple, Ryan. And, I think the other one is obviously running back depth. And I think that what was really evident over the course of practice was TJ Harden looks very much RB1. When you look at how he is how smooth he is with the ball, his lateral quickness with his feet, his ability to kind of shed blocks, his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, just wildly impressive with TJ Harden. I think he's definitely incumbent RB1. And I think in terms of RB2, RB3, obviously a lot of talk with Carson Steele. He just looks so jacked in real life. The guy's body, he just looks like another Christian McCaffrey, just in terms of body, not necessarily in terms of playing style. And he is an absolute battering ram. The one question I have with Carson Steele, though, is his ability to get to the edge. And, time and again on some of those RPO stretch runs, to the right tackle, to the left tackle, he was having a hard time getting all the way to the sideline and had to sort of cut it back up for a limited game. So that's going to be the big transition for me in terms of Carson Steele. How is he going to try to translate from that 1,556 yards at Ball State in the MAC, and how will that translate into the Pac-12? The other guy who really jumped off the page was Colson Yankoff. And right now, Colson Yankoff to me is RB3. And Yankoff, Ryan, the biggest transformation of body of anybody on the UCLA team was Colson Yankov. When you looked at him at the end of last season, kind of bigger guy, thicker guy, obviously powerful, obviously athletic, he has probably lost, 12 to 15 pounds, and he's probably gained 12 to 15% of muscle. I mean, he looks shredded, he looks lean, and he still has that battering ram capability, but there's kind of a second level burst there now that wasn't quite evident last year. And I think that Yankov and Steele are going to really battle it out for this RB2. And I could even see, for as much hype as Carson Steele has gotten over the first few weeks of spring ball, I could see a scenario where Colson Yankov beats Steele out to be RB2 and have a Hart and Yankov kind of 1-2 punch. And then I think the fourth running back, Anthony Adkins from Army, I mean, he is just a massive human being. Just when you look at kind of 6'1", 250, just those proportions on the field as the running back, absolutely staggering. He's going to be phenomenal in goal line situations, red zone situations. UCLA should have no problem being uncomfortable on a 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, 4th and 1 type of situation with a guy like Adkins.
Yeah, and just the triage of Harden, Steele, Yankov just has a nice ring to it. Just sounds
It does.
Sounds
it
right,
does.
right?
Yes. It sounds right.
Harden, Steele.
It sounds
Harden,
right.
Steele. Thank you, Joseph, for the comment. Appreciate you hanging out with us and everyone that's been hanging out with us and listening. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a lot, so I don't need to. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the only other piece I'll say is, in terms of just the other group, as you mentioned, is, in terms of wide receiver, the best player on the field on Saturday was J. Michael Sturdivant. And he probably caught 5 touchdowns in practice. Not a single guy could guard him, and cover him. There wasn't a corner within 2.5 yards of him on any receiving touchdown that he had. He looked like a man among boys there. And I thought he and Kirkwood had some great battles, one-on-one battles. Kirkwood had 3 interceptions on some other guys over the course of practice, and Sturdivant just absolutely balled out. It even got a little chippy there for a second, which was great competitiveness. You love to see that kind of best on best and them getting the best out of each other. But J. Michael Sturdivant looks like wide receiver 1 and is just going to give Chip a dimension to this team that we just have not seen yet in this Chip Kelly era of combining the zone running scheme with some of the shorter throws and now having that vertical pass game. And then when you sort of combine that with what Kyle Ford can give you in terms of those intermediate routes and be that hybrid tight end receiver type, I think that there's going to be some amazing things happening in this receiving core as well.
Yeah, Sturdivant's gonna be so good. I mean, that was such a steal of a transfer, and he's gonna be. I mean, he's gonna vie for probably receiver of the year in the Pac-12,
Yes.
along with some of those other guys across the city at SC, and there's other talented receivers obviously in the conference in general, but I think one of them resides here in LA, and Sturdivant might be the leader in the clubhouse right now. When you just look at pure one-on-one ability.
Yeah.
If we want to say SC has the depth, I think just pure wide receiver 1, Sturdivant looks like that in spades right now. I mean, he is just absolutely killing it, and you were able to see it firsthand. And it's exciting because as good as Chip's offenses have been here since he's been here with DTR, and we've seen the likes of different receivers that he's been able to utilize. And obviously last year was Bobo and Kyle Phillips before that, but he's never really had a true wide receiver 1, like just that guy that can do it all. Has the size, the speed, the versatility. He's not gadgety. He's not pigeonholed into one type of, what he can do. And finally probably has that in Kyle Sturdivant. You said pairing that, like you mentioned, with Kyle Ford and with some of the other depth that they have, you have still the speed of Cam Brown and some of those other players. It just shows, whoever is going to be quarterback has a lot of stuff to play with when it comes to running backs and receivers, and a lot to be excited about. So, yeah, this offense for sure is in a good spot. Last thing before we go, Jamal, I want to hear about this QB event quickly before we wrap up. But the defense, you mentioned, some picks in there. You mentioned some good play, but overall, what was your thoughts of the defense? Which is always hard to really see in a practice.
It's challenging in these types of 7-on-7 situations. But the one thing I will say, Ryan, is the versatility of the front 7 is significant. And when you factor in the Murphy twins with Olatu in terms of pass rush, Everyone forgets Carl Jones is back. He looked every bit as tall and lean and rangy as ever in terms of just, pure pass rush. And then when you sort of combine the elements of Muasau, John Vaughns, who wasn't at practice because he's still in baseball season, and then the kid out of Cal, the other kid out of Cal, Oladejo. Oladejo looks like an absolute physical specimen, Ryan. And so when you will look at a potential linebacking crew of John Vaughns, Muasau, and Oladejo, and then you can maybe bring in Murphy twins, Latu, Carl Jones on the edge. I mean, there's just so much you can do here in terms of athletically. I mean, you can send this linebacking core and this front set. Greg Bliss back in terms of more of a Tampa 2 concept. There's just so much you can do in terms of versatility with this front seven that I think is going to help shield that secondary in a significant way. And I think, right now, Kirk will make that jump to be the least going to happen last year, like we thought. But this year is the year I think that Kirkwood makes that jump, right. So, overall, really excited to see what we have going on, both in terms of offensively as well as defensively. Again, I think this is the most deep UCLA has been at the key positions, Ryan, since 2014. Overall, the year 3 of Jim Mora, when he had Barr and Kendricks and Miles Jack and so many athletes. Paul Perkins, Hundley, of course, was there, and just the plethora. Fuller, Peyton, all of those guys were there making some things happen. Vanderdoes was really significant. And I think in terms of front seven havoc, this might be the front seven that has the most havoc of any UCLA team since 2006, the year that they upset SC 13-9 in that famous game because of the likes of Brigham Harwell and Brian Price and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've talked about a lot, the depth, and on paper, this defense can absolutely be one of the best defenses in the Pac-12. On paper, can be one of the, maybe not the best, but still a very good unit in the country. And so now it's going to be how they truly buy into DeAnton Lynn's system and whether the changes are significant enough and some of the talent coming back and also some of the new talent coming in. You mentioned Oladejo, what those pieces mean to this defense to take them to that next step, because we've said all along, they need to just be like top 50. And with this offense, if they can be a top 50 defense, look out. This mighty Bruins team is going to be a force to be reckoned with, not just in the Pac-12, but nationally. And I think they got as high as 12 last season. I think they can absolutely vie for that playoff spot if they really, everything comes together. And obviously a lot's going to depend on the quarterback play because it's going to be the first time new starter in the Chip Kelly era, but the talent is deep and the defensive talent is just as deep as the offensive talent, which is not getting talked about as much. So good stuff as always. Glad you're able to get out there with our guy Dirty Chai, and you guys put out a great Bruin Bible right after that with full recaps if anyone wants to check that out as well. Before we wrap up here, we got just a couple minutes left, so not a lot of time, unfortunately, but you were that same night, Saturday, you and your dad got to go to an awesome UCLA event with a ton of former UCLA quarterbacks. You guys were brushing shoulders, sitting at tables, swapping stories. Just tell us a little bit. What was the event like? Maybe your favorite or one or two quarterbacks you were able to meet and some stories.
Yeah, no, Ryan. I mean, it was really a special night. The first kind of the inaugural UCLA Quarterback Club event. All the proceeds went to Mattel Children's Hospital. So what an incredible cause that was. And, just got an opportunity to talk with just so many of my kind of childhood favorite Bruins. I mean, talking with Wayne Cook was the quarterback of my first UCLA team. I became a UCLA fan off of Wayne Cook. And so to be able to talk to him, and he's obviously been a big part of the LA Football Network and a guest the last couple of weeks. He's so excited to be part of the LA Football Network. And we were talking about ways for him to collaborate moving forward. He pulled his wife over and said, "Oh, you got to meet Jamal. This is co-owner of the Football Network that I've been having so much fun with." That was amazing to see Cade McNown. I had an opportunity to tell Cade McNown, "You were a lefty. I was a lefty." The 97, 98 teams, the 20-game winning streak. I went outside in my front yard, and all I wanted to be was Cade McNown and throw the ball like you rolling out to the left. And just had some great stories. He was an opportunity to share those. Patrick Collin, who was obviously the 13-9 victory a couple of weeks, and he was in terms of being able to put it together. And on the list we go. We can say on air, and in terms of was with and the opportunity, and basically tell him that
Well, I think, Jamal's having some Wi-Fi issues, unfortunately, so we won't be able to hear the rest of those stories. We'll update everyone. Maybe we'll do a quick little update just on maybe those stories later that we'll upload later to our channel so everyone can hear. So, but thank you all for hanging out with us and tuning in for this UCLA Bruins talk. Every Monday, 7:30, we come at you talking all things UCLA. But for Jamal, Matt, and I'm Ryan Dyer, we'll be talking Rams talk. If anyone wants to join us now, jump over to that channel. We'll do Chargers talk at the 8:30 hour. So Bruins fans, everyone, appreciate you. Talk to y'all soon, and go Bruins.